Like, yeah, a lot of people just let fear take over, and what ifs or the I'm not sure's and what about this and what about that, so they get in the way. Just do it. Like, if you fail, you fail. Yeah, at least you can go out and say that you've had a go at it, you've had a try, and shit didn't happen. Well, at least you had to go. So I say that especially to my kids now. Yeah, they're what about this and what about that? But you just got to do it and see what happens.
And that was Lucas Big Daddy Browne. Welcome everybody to episode 33 of the Vision Board Podcast. My name is Jonny Stofko. Sitting with me is the great Tristan Cannell.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Yeah, man. I like adjectives.
You're pretty good yourself.
I'm working on it.
Yeah.
I like
You're
adjectives.
working on it, son. Who we got today? We got Lucas. Lucas, the first current world champion. Like, we've had some great guys.
Former champions.
Like, when we count the amount of belts we've had on, it must be about 50.
Yeah, exactly. Former champions, people have reached the top, but this is our first current champion.
This is fresh.
And he's also a first ever Australian
to ever win the title.
Heavyweight.
No Australian ever has won the Australian Heavyweight Championship of the world. So it might not be a big deal for you guys back in the States because you guys have a different champion every year. But for us, we've got a small population. Our population's like 22 million. So when you think about it, New York's probably got the same size or half the size of Australia. So it's been a big deal back home. It's fresh. We're speaking to him 8 days after he's won the title. So.
Yeah, and what I like and what you like isn't the fact that you can replace boxing, you can replace race car driver. What I like is the word first ever. I don't care if you're the first ever mailman to ever deliver mail to a zoo that sits on an island. I don't care. If you did it first and no other human has ever walked in that path, I want to talk to you.
Yeah, I think so, man. It's a cool dude to have on. He's very down to earth. He's very talented. He's a singer. He's played rugby league at a pretty high level.
He turns 37 in April.
Played MMA. He's fought Daniel Cormier. For the guys in the States that probably more relate to maybe UFC than boxing. So not even is he the current heavyweight champ. He's been in the octagon ring with a high caliber of people. Yeah,
so we're excited to hear from him. He's a father. He's a champion. The guy has good role model in and out of the ring, and he really is a very likable guy. So I'm really excited to pick his brain on his path because he's no spring chicken. I mean, you read the history books of average age of a world champion, especially to win it for the first time. I'm just going to guess it's not going to say 36, 37 years old.
Yeah, cool. Just also a big shout out to our major sponsor, Populis. Populis, a boutique international managing consulting company specializing in helping businesses transform and take their next step in their business growth.
Yeah, if you guys are listening out there, you're running a business, part of a business, and you feel like you're in a stagnant, stuck state, definitely check Populis out at the website, populis.com.au. That's Populis. These guys specialize in happiness, leadership, and taking you to the next level.
Definitely check them out, and check out their show, The Leadership Show, which is on iTunes, SoundCloud, and also the visual version on YouTube. So check it out, guys. But further ado, who have we got?
Lucas Big Daddy Browne.
World champ.
Rock and roll.
It makes me wanna creep.
I got something for your mind, your body, and your soul. I got something for your mind, your body, and your soul.
The Vision Board Podcast, hosted by Jonny Stofko and Tristan Cannell.
All right, a special guest today, Australia's first ever heavyweight champion of the world, Lucas Browne. He's 24-0 with 21 knockouts. Obviously, a couple of weeks ago, winning the WBA championship belt. We're very happy to have him on. We welcome Lucas Browne. Lucas, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you, fellas. How are you?
We're really, really well. Happy to have you on, man.
Yeah, excellent.
Thank you.
Lucas.
Lucas, firstly, congratulations. Obviously, it's a huge achievement. Going over to where he went over to winning the belt. Has it sunk in yet, man?
I don't think it really has at this stage. I'm now back in Perth, so I sort of basically had the fight, flew all the way back from Chechnya, long flight through the cold, everything else, got back to sort of Sydney, stayed a couple of days, got back to Perth, 38, 39 degrees over here, so like, I've actually got myself a little bit sick, and obviously haven't slept very much either with all the media whirlwind and everything else, so to be honest, no, it hasn't all quite sunk in yet. I also don't have the belt, so 2 to 3 weeks I got to wait for the DHL guy to turn up with my belt because I had to give it back to the guy on the night. So unfortunately, no, it slowly is, but it's not quite there yet.
That's excellent. The awesome thing about this story, in my opinion, Lucas, is in regards to legacy and in the future, when people look back on this day and age in boxing, the books will always be written. The first ever Australian heavyweight champion is Lucas Browne. What does that title mean to you? Having achieved that, what does it mean?
Yeah. No, honestly, that's probably the most important part. Obviously, the belt is very good. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, just the fact that no matter what happens, I could lose the belt tomorrow in another fight, and no one can ever take that off me. So that's something that's going to stay for me, for my kids, for everything else. So yeah, that's something that's going to stand the test of time, so to speak. So I'm happy about that for sure.
Lucas, just taking you back to the fight with Ruslan. Obviously, he's an experienced campaigner. He's been in the ring with the best. Was he everything that you expected?
Yeah, he was actually. I've been told by a few people, like Carly Meehan being one of them, who's actually fought him, that he hasn't got as much power as like other heavyweights and things like that. So I wasn't expecting that much coming out of what he was going to give me. But I think with his new trainer and that as well, he's actually got a lot sharper, a lot crisper, and his combinations become a lot better as well. So especially in the first round, I wasn't expecting all that much to come out, but he was very quick, he was very sharp, and he hit with a lot of combinations that I sort of wasn't expecting, across the back of the head, and like little things that a veteran would sort of come out with. So it definitely put me on the back foot, and I really knew I was in a fight straight off the bat.
Yeah, when you that fight, you dealt with adversity. Are your senses heightened in a sense to once you put the pressure on him? Are you able to identify that he's wounded, and then it's time to really turn the pressure on it? Was there a certain moment in that fight?
Yeah, 100%. Like in the 6th round, obviously I got knocked down, and in my thought process, if I knock him down, which I did in the 10th, so I knocked him down in the 10th, and my thought process behind that is attack, and just don't let him off. So when he knocked me down in the 6th, I personally was thinking, okay, he's going to jump on me and try to smother me and all that sort of stuff. So I made sure I moved around as much as I could while I was still sort of grabbing my wits and my legs and all that sort of stuff, trying to make sure that he couldn't capitalise. Where obviously in the 10th, for me, it was like, okay, now I'll go in for the kill. I've got him wounded, I can smell blood, now it's time for the kill, yeah.
What was the crowd like there?
They loved him. They weren't exactly there for me, that's for sure.
Was it like Rocky IV?
Yeah, did you turn him?
It was actually, yeah. I know it's one of those things where you don't sort of compare it to everything else, but yeah, it really was like Rocky IV. They were chanting for him the whole time. Anything he did whatsoever, there was a cheer. Anything I did, there was nothing. And then when I did actually knock him down and like the fight was stopped, I've turned around and thrown both my hands up in the air and gone, yes! And there was not one sound in the crowd. Not one sound whatsoever. So yeah, my corner have jumped in, like one of my managers jumped the ropes and they've all jumped in and they're jumping around. And I've actually had to tell them to settle the hell down because it looks disrespectful from our end, like we're the only ones making noise. So it's funny that the fighter who's just won the world title is telling his corner to settle down.
It's truly an amazing story. Your birthday's in April. You're going to be 37. You're a new world champion. When you were 27, did it ever cross your mind that you were going to be the heavyweight champion of the world?
No, it never really did. No, from a young age, I wanted to be the heavyweight champion, especially watching people like Mike Tyson and things like that. It's something I've always wanted to do. Never really thought I'd get that far. And it wasn't until basically 30 years old where I didn't want to look back and think what if, so I just went straight out and did it, and here we are. So yeah, I'm glad it's worked out the way it has. But I do actually wish I started a lot younger. But it is what it is. Heavyweights don't mature until later on in life, so I've still got a few, good 4 or 5 years of me anyway.
Yeah, I could see that. Some would say that you could use that as an advantage because you really haven't taken the rounds and the punishment that a lot of these guys have.
That's right.
Is there something though, like that you could look back on that? Have you made a major change in your lifestyle? Is there something or like a moment where you were like, maybe in your late 20s where you chose to do something differently to get you to where you are today?
I stopped smoking. That was one thing, that's for sure. Like, I've sort of been a smoker since I was about 16. So I got to about 28, 29, and I stopped smoking. So that was a definite change from that point. But not really. Like I'm eating a little bit better. I'm training a little bit harder. So it's just a bit more intensity, I suppose you could say it. But nothing much has changed in terms of lifestyle. No, like I'm not doing security overnight anymore, which is definitely a good thing.
Yeah.
And I'm doing full-time boxing, so I'm happy with that.
You mentioned Mike Tyson before. Who were your heroes growing up?
growing up, there was two. Mike Tyson being one, mainly because of obviously who he was in the ring, not exactly out of the ring. He wasn't my idol in that regard.
Yeah, definitely not.
But Michael Jordan was the other one. So not only was he the man and he could trash talk and play the game on the court, he could handle himself well with dignity, respect, and all that sort of stuff off the court, which I think is just as important. Watching Mundine sort of come up through the ranks, knowing that yes, he might be a very nice guy off camera, but on camera basically he's perceived as an asshole, and I'd never want to be perceived as that. So I've made sure that I've come across exactly who I am in real life, and it's just a nice, humble fella who enjoys what he does and loves his family, and then gets to the ring and smashes people. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, like all anyone has to do is Google your name, and every picture I could find, you're smiling, and it's very evident when people are authentic. And with you, it comes, it speaks to who you are and how you handle yourself. Do you find it hard sometimes when you're doing the mental preparation for these, stories of combat, pretty much against a stranger, to get up for that? How do you deal with that, the mental preparation?
Basically, like I'm like a Jekyll and Hyde. I've got your nice everyday person, and obviously that's 95% of the time, and then I've got the person that no one really likes and no one really likes talking to or cares about because I'm just an absolute nutter. But as long as I've sort of managed to be able to switch them on and off when I need to, which is good, and I think that again, someone like Mike Tyson just never had that opportunity to be able to switch it on and off. It was just on all the time. So again, looking at people's lives and mistakes and everything else, and made sure that I sort of rectified in my own life.
In regards to mistakes, we like chatting a lot about finding moments in our lives of extreme adversity that you could look back on and then you tell yourself, you know what, I needed to go through this, and it was actually a catalyst for your own personal evolution. You looking back, was there a specific moment that, at the time while it was happening, you were like, kind of in a bad place, but now where you are today as the world champion, you're like, damn, I needed to go through that?
In terms of fighting, I'd have to say something like the Daniel Cormier fight in MMA. I was fighting for the ex-MMA world title, and Daniel Cormier, obviously the UFC light heavyweight champion at the moment. That was my first ever loss. So for me, that was something that just wasn't natural to lose, and obviously I got beat down hard because he's a wrestler, and I'm not a wrestler in any way whatsoever. So he completely dominated me with the wrestling, split me open with 13 stitches after an elbow, and it was for me as a person, as a man, it was like quite demoralising, obviously, and I think I needed to make sure that I could get through that, and in turn make sure that it never happens again, sort of thing. So I think for me in the fight game, that was definitely the sort of the turning point, the catalyst, and all that. Yeah.
Has Daniel been in touch to congratulate you yet?
Sorry?
Has Daniel been in touch to congratulate you yet?
No, he hasn't actually. No. I've had a lot of boxers. Even like Antonio Tava, David Hay, Tyson Fury, a lot of the big boys around town, which have congratulated me. And I've also had a lot that have sort of jumped on and want to fight me now. So that's not very interesting. But nothing from Cormier just yet.
Awesome. Lucas, who was, like, obviously when you first got the idea of fighting in Grozny in the Czech Republic, like, whose idea was that, and what were you thinking when they brought it to you?
Well, it wasn't exactly anyone's idea. It was just the fact that that's where he's from. Like, he's an adopted son of Grozny. He's Uzbeki, who fights out of Germany, who's the adopted son of Chechnya. So, it's a weird little situation, but basically he holds the belt, so he has control in a lot of ways. It went to purse bids and all that sort of stuff, and they won the bid, so it just happened that that's where it was. So it was either me not fight for the title or fight over in Chechnya.
And we're also talking, obviously, before Rocky IV. What was the place like? Was it snowing? Did you have to train in a barn? What happened? I went to Moscow for 2 days first, and that was the first time I'd ever seen snow, which was quite nice. It was a nice little first for me there. And then the head over to Grozny, which was probably about an average of, say, 12 degrees during the day. So it was cool, but it wasn't like freezing or anything like that. Yeah. And in all honesty, like I was a bit apprehensive going over war-torn country. He's the best mate of the guy I was fighting as the president of the country. 100% Muslim country as well. So I just wasn't sure about everything. And without a doubt, I can say it's one of the best places I've ever been to visit. Obviously, considering their background, they've had to build the whole city within 15 years, and it's absolutely gorgeous. I've seen Islam at its finest, so no alcohol, no cigarettes, no tattoos,
no attitudes. It was just people wanting to be nice. They were the most humble people I've ever met. I've got treated like a movie star, so had the whole 25th floor of the 5-star hotel to ourselves. Like it was absolutely sensational.
Lucas, I once read it was a quote from Buster Douglas, and he was talking about the training camp leading up to him beating Tyson. About everybody in the world chose Mike for that fight, and the only people in the world who thought Douglas was going to win was himself and his camp. What he said though was profound. That I'm going to ask you is the fact that everybody in his camp, they prepared him to win, but what they didn't do, they never talked about how to act after he won. And he said that, and he said that was one of those things that led to kind of his demise after that victory, which should have been the greatest moment of his life. Were you doing any type of mental visualizations of, or were you guys talking to you about it? Like, you're going to win this fight, you're going to be a champion. Prepare for that. Was there any of that going on?
Not preparation-wise, no. I suppose, as you said, like they expected me to win. I expected me to win. But there was no actual, this is what we're going to do afterwards. No, it was more, this is for your family, this is for all that sort of stuff. So I was definitely visualising, I was doing all the things I needed to do, but not in regards to now how I'm going to act, no. But I've done 13 years of security as well, so acting like nice and the way you should sort of act it comes naturally for me, especially in front of like dignitaries and all that sort of stuff as well. So for me, I was the only one that actually had my head on straight at the time, to be honest.
With Nigel Benn and Rodney Williams in your corner, is this the best prepared you've ever been for a fight?
Well, to clarify that, like Nigel Benn was in the camp, so to speak. Pretty much, he was at about 4 or 5 training sessions. That was it. Like Rodney's a bit of the cheerleader. Nigel's a bit of the cheerleader.
Yep.
Nigel wanted me to do this, that, and the other, and I said no, and we had a bit of a cry about it. So, to be honest, it was all Rodney Williams. Like Rodney's actually Nigel's trainer as well.
Yep.
Rodney Williams is the man. He's allowed me to sort of be exactly who I wanted to be. He hasn't tried to change anything. He's just tried to make what I have better. And he's more on my side mentally as well. So, Nigel's a great guy, but we don't see eye to eye on many things, and that. Yeah, that's just the way it is, unfortunately.
Yeah, where did you and Rodney first connect at?
Through my manager as well. My manager thought it'd be a good spin-off, having Nigel in the corner and the media and all that sort of stuff, and that's how I met Rodney. And then from there, Rodney and I just got on like a house on fire, and we sort of, he's the trainer anyway, so regardless, we have to see each other every day. So yeah, it was through Nigel and through the manager, so yeah.
Lucas, do you pay attention to the UFC?
Yeah, of course, yeah, love it.
Because I'm thinking the UFC heavyweight division is in shambles. You got Kane, spinal cord surgery, will never be the same guy. You got Verdum. The jury's still out in my opinion with Verdum. Has that thought crossed your mind? You have MMA experience. You're the world champion in boxing. You could reach out to Dana or Fertitta and be like, "Let me challenge for that UFC heavyweight belt," and you'd hold both.
Sort of, but no. Like, because I know for a fact I'm not a wrestler or a kicker, so I am pretty much a pure sort of boxing mind. All the fights that I did, I had 6 wins and 2 losses in MMA. The 6 wins were all by my hands and all by knockout because I like throwing punches, not for anything other reason. So I think I'd have a go at it for sure, but there wouldn't be a massive chance of me winning because I'm just not in that sort of. Yeah. I'm not in that mindset. I'm just in a boxing mindset, and that's all I am. So,
yeah, I think that you can put in a camp, maybe an 8-week camp, defend the takedown, work on the sprawl and throw those hands. I think, it's always fun to think about things like that from a fan's perspective.
Well, bit of an old school Chuck Liddell style, just defend the takedown and punch people's faces. That's it.
That's all Chuck did.
That's it. Yeah. He did it well too.
Yeah, man. He would throw his punches like he had like sledgehammers in them. He wouldn't even rotate his fists. It was crazy.
No, that's right. And then those little 4-ounce gloves, they don't take much.
Yeah.
Oh, I think you're a chance. What did I saw Costa came and visited you after the fight, Costa Zoo. What did Costa have to say straight after?
Basically, obviously, he didn't want to disrespect anyone by coming up to me in the ring and all that sort of stuff. He basically just congratulated me, talked through how he won and how everyone's going to come to you now and all this sort of stuff, and a little bit of sort of financial advice as well, like just actual nice, good friend stuff that you really want to hear rather than just all the bullshit that people sort of come out and tell you. So it was quite refreshing to hear all that. Yeah.
And just another one. Was it true that you were in the top 50 for the Australian Idol?
I was second season, the one that Casey Donovan won. Yeah.
Awesome. I have this question from a fan. They want to know what tune you like singing in the shower.
Well, people often think that I'm like some metalhead, like Metallica and all that sort of stuff, but I'm really into old school soul R&B. So as far back, like you look at it, sort of Stevie Wonder and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
But
nice.
a bit more recent, D'Angelo, Mystic Soul Child, Maxwell, all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Brown Sugar, a woman's worth.
Brown Sugar, that's the one. Yeah.
That's the jam.
Have you got
No.
tunes in before the fight?
I do all that sort of stuff. I put all the old school stuff on. Yeah, like it just calms me down. It's good.
Yeah, could you talk a little bit about more of that type of stuff to, some of our listeners or fans who might not ever get a chance to talk to a heavyweight champ? What's like the couple hours before that fight look like for you? What's going on there?
For me, it's just all about not burning any unnecessary energy. So it's honestly just big chill out, just doing nothing, and it's an impatient time for me because you're going to fight in a few hours, but you can do nothing in between. You just got to relax and just wait. So it's a jittery time, but at the same time you got to try and relax. So yeah, we just have good old talks. We took a limo to the venue, and there was my two brothers, sponsor, manager, his dad, trainer, all that sort of stuff, and we're just belting out tunes like old school rock tunes and rock ballads, and we're doing all harmonies and stuff like that in the limo. So it was a really cool experience.
That's awesome.
What's your last meal before a fight?
Generally, something lighter. Like I've always been told to go into a fight light. So the night before you'd have your pasta or something like that. So it's carbs. Where during the day you just maybe have something like a very light, like Subway sandwich or something like that, like a tuna Subway sandwich, and it's like 3 to 4 hours out from the fight. So when you do actually fight, you're semi-hungry basically. Yeah.
Yeah, so you mentioned earlier that you're getting a lot of and we see it as well. You're getting a lot of call-outs, people coming out of the woodwork to want to fight you. In a perfect world, could you paint the picture for us where that fight would take place? You don't have to say who it would be with, but I'm kind of interested the venue, the city, what it looks like.
Growing up, obviously watching all the boxing and stuff, it has to be either Vegas or Madison Square Garden for me. That's like on the American side of things. I would love to fight like Deontay Wilder, being obviously the American side of things over there, either one of those places. If we'll say Tyson Fury, I'd like to fight him at like MEN, Manchester, big arena. If not in Australia, like the next one I'm hoping is going to be against Equendo in Australia. So we're looking at sort of probably Melbourne through Amatruda and Gatto, or even Perth, the big Perth Convention Centre or arena, whatever the hell it's called, that they've just built. They're having a boxing fight there, so that'll be nice for that one as well.
My brother's a big Parramatta Eels fan. You played SG ball for Parramatta, eh?
I played Matthews and ball, yeah. I was in the front row for the Matthews and on the wing for the ball.
Awesome. I was about to ask you that, like what position you played being a big fella, whether you were actually in the front row. So you graduated from the wing to the front row?
Front row to wing. Went the other way around.
Other way around?
Yeah.
Wow.
In the 15, I was always taller than everyone. I wasn't exactly like a big lump of a fella. But I was always fit, like pretty much an Eric Grove Jr. sort of looking style fella.
Or was Eric in your team or Hindy or anyone like that?
I had Kalis. I had Jason Kalis, not Nathan. Nathan was a year above with Vela and that. So I had Jason Kalis, Chad Robinson, Hindmarsh, Nathan Hindmarsh, stuff like that in the ball. Yeah, so that was definitely something to sort of tell the kids about when they're older. Yeah.
You've been blessed with some skills, like obviously boxing, football, singing. Like, if there was one thing that you could do, maybe like, would you choose if you could be a rock star? You're already a rock star now, obviously winning the title, but would you do it if you could after you finish?
But you never know. There might be an album on its way. You don't know.
Dude, do it, man.
You don't know. Like, yeah, I know. Well, I got to get the notoriety and everything first. So I think I've got that on the way. So strike while the iron's hot.
Did you hear D'Angelo's last album? I think it was about a year ago.
Yeah, of course.
It was good, wasn't it?
It was. Yeah, it was, man. I like all this stuff. So
it's crazy.
He's put on a lot of pounds, but he still sings sings well.
Like I grew up listening to like H-Town, Jodeci, Shy, like
That's
that
it.
whole genre
Yeah.
just disappeared.
Yeah. After 7.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
my.
Milestone.
Yeah.
All the boys, yeah. Babyface. You gotta get them all in there. Yeah.
Changing Faces, R. Kelly, those old school ones.
That's the ones. Yeah.
You know what, Lucas?
Keith Sweat.
Okay.
Sorry, Keith Sweat.
You know what? Next fight, you have to sing your own like walkout music. Roy Jones used to do it.
Did Roy do that?
I was thinking about that. Yeah. I was
Anthony Mundine done it before.
Mundine sang?
He done his rap.
Nah,
before.
yeah, he's done a rap. No one really gives a shit.
But
about
no one's done the song yet. I reckon you might be the first to bring out the old R&B, bit of love in the room.
Dude, that would be awesome. That's why they call him Big Daddy.
Why can't we be friends? We can do that one.
Finish it up, Lucas.
Do it, man.
Yeah, nice.
That's awesome. So, changing subjects here because Tristan and I are both really interested and fascinated with people who, on the level you are, but there's always this common denominator with everyone we talk to is that they needed to struggle to get there. Looking back maybe 10 years ago, so you're going to be 37. Looking back to Lucas when he was 27, is there any specific bits of advice you'd want to tell that younger version of yourself?
Just do it. Like, a lot of people just let fear take over, and what ifs or the I'm not sures and what about this and what about that sort of get in the way. Just do it. Like, if you fail, you fail. Yeah, at least you can go out and say that you've had a go at it and you've had a try and shit didn't happen. Well, at least you had to go. So I say that especially to my kids now. Yeah, they're what about this and what about that? But you just got to do it and see what happens.
Lucas, just a personality question, just to wrap it up. We really appreciate your time today. Now, Lucas Browne, you've got 5 invites to your own dinner party. Now, dead or alive, you can't invite your family or friends. You've got 5 invites.
Right.
Who are you inviting?
Wow. Michael Jordan, Mike Tyson, Michael Jackson. So 3 MJs?
Yeah.
2 MJs, sorry, not 3. Wow. So I normally think of girls that I want to invite, but that's just different, isn't it? Yeah. Throwing Naomi Campbell. Gonna throw Naomi Campbell on that one.
Okay.
And J-Lo.
Who was that?
J-Lo. Jennifer
J-Lo.
Lopez.
She's
You
got
gotta have
that
some
booty.
booty in the house.
Yeah.
An excellent.
You gotta have some booty in the house.
She'll like your music too.
Whatever. Just the booty's in the house. That's all that matters.
Yeah, Lucas. And finally, for our listeners listening and our fans and your fans, could you let everybody know where they could find you on social media so they could follow your journey?
Yeah, basically I got Twitter, so it's Lucas Big Daddy Browne 1 on Twitter, Lucas Big Daddy Browne on Instagram, and then there's 2 Lucas Browne pages on Facebook and also a Big Daddy page on Facebook as well. So there's plenty to go around, so jump on all of them if you want.
Awesome, man. Hey, thanks a lot again. Congrats and happy birthday coming up, big dog.
Thank you very much, man. Thank you. Love it.
Thanks so much, guys.
All right, have a good one. Bye.
See you, Lucas. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Our first current champion of the world, and what a humble and just cool dude. It's the kind of dude you just want to hang out with.
And he comes from our backyard. He
Yeah.
comes from your backyard.
He actually does come from my backyard.
Yeah, you said.
Out
Tell
west.
us about it, man.
Yeah,
Where do you come
he
from?
was born from Auburn. So I come from Quakers Hill, which is near Blacktown. Lucas was born in Auburn. I think he was living around that area. So he played for Parramatta Eels, like you just mentioned, in the under 16s or 18s. So that would be the equivalent of, when you went to college, you got picked by someone to get to that next level.
Yep.
That's kind of what the equivalent is. So that's Parramatta Eels rugby league team.
Yep.
Just their nursery to kind of get players through. So it's quite a high level.
Yeah, when we always talk about finding inspirations and not allowing the hate to, when I say hate, like hating on people. Like the older you get, it's really important to be able to cut that when it starts sneaking in. I think that anchors some self-doubt. When I hear Lucas speak and having spoken to him, I just want him to be champion forever.
Cool,
he's going to be 37.
Yeah.
Think about that, guys.
It is like a bit of a Rocky story. Like it seriously is.
It's a Hollywood story, man. Think about it. Let's say the facts here. What are some facts about Lucas Browne? He's going to be 37 in April. He
was behind on the cards in that fight.
He got knocked down in that fight. And where did he fight at?
In Russia, some republic thing. I don't even
Did
know
he fight in
what-
Chechnya?
Yeah, I don't even know what that is.
The guy he fought has fought Klitschko. The guy he fought hadn't lost in 5 years. Ruslan Shayev. So, but let's go past that. What was he doing at 30?
Yeah, I think he was still bouncing
Bouncing at nightclubs.
working his way up. He MMA towards fighting. Like once he hit boxing, I think he knew that because he became the Commonwealth champ. He's been in the ring with the guys like James Toney. I've got a little list of.
He
guys
fought
that he's
Cormier
been
in MMA, guys.
In MMA,
If you're listening,
shows
you know
a lot
Daniel
of
Cormier,
guts.
DC. He's the lightweight, heavyweight champion. He's also an Olympian.
So some of the ranked guys he's fought: James Toney, Travis Walker, Richard Towers. So these guys are all top 10.
Talk about a man though who's peaking his potential. Not when they said when we were younger you're supposed to. If it doesn't happen by the time you're this age, it's not going to happen. That's just not
Even
true.
the waiting game at 37 to get a shot and do it, like
Patience.
yeah, patience is a virtue, man.
The persistence. The belief, though. Let's talk about the self-belief. So this guy, I don't know his personal life. I know he has kids. I assume that there's other people involved in these decisions that he's making. Things like maybe a partner, a father, a mother, kids, to where at that age, you really have to have a self-belief in your talent and your purpose to continue to do that. And to have all of that pay off on the pinnacle of the stages, to be the first ever written ever in human history, no matter what ever happens, no one will ever be able to say they were the first ever heavyweight world champion from Australia, except Lucas Browne.
And there's been people that's tried. There has been people that's tried.
No,
Alex Leopold tried last year against Klitschko.
Just didn't happen.
Just didn't happen. He just did not have
The timing.
And there's been a lot of people. There's been a lot of doubters on Lucas.
Oh, we talk. You know what? This is a story of positive. This is a story. The podcast is a story, guys, and we use it for positivity. But if you go back some episodes, we talked to Fennec, and
Yeah, Jeff didn't think he would do it.
Jeff didn't have a.
And the reason why I actually brought it up on that day is because I've watched Lucas for a while, and I thought Lucas was a chance. Like, even though the biggest obstacle is going across the world and then trying to bring it back. Like, that's huge.
Fennec made it sound like it was a lifestyle. These were lifestyle choices.
But I think he might have made some good points. Like, he said Nigel Benn tried to change him. I think Jeff tried to do the same. And then he found that Rodney didn't do that. He tried to use his strengths instead of trying to make him something that they wanted him to be.
So you mean changing styles, maybe some footwork, some tempos,
Even
some
like I think
style?
outside of the ring maybe as well.
Okay.
Like, you know how we've all got different things that we do?
Yeah.
Who knows? Like, he might like going to the pub on a Saturday afternoon. I don't know.
Yeah.
You have to assume that maybe some of
There has to be something there.
Yeah, there'll be something there that they probably didn't like.
Those are big doubters too. When you take a guy, Fennec used to train him, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's other people who've had this hands-on, one-on-one relationship with him who didn't believe in him, and to have him succeed through that has to be.
Yeah.
I don't want to say it feels good, but I could see that being an igniter for that fire we always talking about,
I
like
think
that
so.
having that catalyst for why or that purpose. He's probably been getting hated on. Maybe you're too slow, or you're too old, or
I mean, people didn't think he deserved the opportunity. Like, at 37, you know, there's a big pecking line in terms of the heavyweight crown.
Can we talk about this for a second? Now, I mean, I was really, this might be way off base, but take Klitschko out of the equation of ever being a champion. There really hasn't been in our era, from the 70s, 80s, 90s, up until today, white heavyweight champion, has there?
No. Lennox was...
And in the 90s...
Lennox was coloured, Tyson
Well,
coloured.
in the 90s, that was a big...
Just the two Klitschko boys.
But that was a big thing, that like they're the great white hope basically, and they try to force a couple guys in that. Tommy Morrison was one of them. Tragic story. Don't want to go down that road. Yeah, it just didn't happen. And now you have this guy he's not going out to Vegas blowing all that money. He has children. Hopefully, I want for the sport, because they need a new heartbeat in terms of the popularity, and for Australia to jump on this guy's back. Support an athlete. Support a local athlete.
It's been great this week. The media exposure that he's getting and like the really positive vibe since he's won has been great. And I hope he does get that fight in Las Vegas because
I'd love to see that.
He deserves it.
I'd love to see that fight in Las Vegas. He said MSG. He's visualizing already.
How good is it that he wants to test himself? He could easily say, "Oh, let's just do it in Perth or Sydney where I'm safe." Fuck that.
They all say that. Wayne said the same thing. Wayne Parr said the only reason he keeps doing this, he will only fight guys that he feels that they can beat him.
Yeah.
He won't take a fight if he thinks it's going to be a tomato can.
Those two places are Mecca.
How do you grow though? The only way to grow is to be uncomfortable.
Challenge yourself. Well, he said it. What do you got to do? You're going to fail.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, failure. That's another thing, man. Failure is. It's all perception's a beautiful thing.
Is the loss really a failure anyway? Like, probably not.
Yeah, hey guys, if you're listening, you're out there and you're thinking, we all have something we want to be doing other than what we're doing at this moment. Now, what I mean by that is maybe you're not working that thing that you want to be working. Maybe you're not doing that sport you're not doing. But listen and believe that at least attempt to do it. Go
It's
do
about
it.
sacrifices too. Like, for example, this is 8:30 at night.
Oh, yeah.
Me and Johnny could be inside in front of the TV doing anything, but no way.
I love
speak
this.
to Lucas Browne.
Yeah, I
We've
love
done
this.
interviews in the morning at 1 o'clock in the morning,
Yeah.
and it's just about working and grinding. When
Yeah, because I mean, right now these times are being thrown out there not to say, "Aha, look at me, I'm doing this and you're not." No, it's saying that it's the part of that chopping wood. That's how I visualize it, because
absolutely. I
we're
agree.
dealing with, we're in Australia. A lot of our guests are American. A lot of these guys have personal assistants, and we're at the stage right now where we got to take what we could get in regards to scheduling. And I know we got one coming up on Thursday at 1 a.m. And that's after
That's just the way it happens.
a huge week. Both of us with our businesses running, full steam ahead. But what we're saying is, it takes moments of sacrifice. You have to sacrifice. Nothing is given. It's not like, here you go. Here is
and the rewards will be worth more.
That's it, man. Because you can't. I feel I'm wired that I can't sit back and ever relax and be happy with something, because I feel that I could always be doing more. That's not saying I'm not grateful or looking back and saying like I've done, okay things, but it's like I want to do things to where I even shock myself. I want to look back and be scared. It happened this weekend. This weekend, you and I were put into a situation interviewing one of my childhood heroes. For the first, and it just happened. It wasn't planned. It wasn't scheduled. It wasn't, within 24 hours we get contact and meet us here, boom, and all of a sudden we're face to face in a cage with him. And that's being uncomfortable. And man, I was so nervous. Remember that car ride up there?
Yeah, you were.
and
Shaking.
Yeah, we like to think that I've done a lot of training and leadership and personal development in the past, and nothing could basically prepare you for something like that. Because the only reason I was nervous is because I created those nerves. I'm able to control that, but when you put so much precedence, if it's a fear of yours, if it's something you want to do, and you just keep telling yourself you can or you can't, at the same time you're creating that perception.
But it's great to create it, because that's what challenges are in life. Like, you could have easily backed off, or
it was.
You can back off, or you might not ever get the opportunity to do it again. That's why I said yes when you rang me, because you might not have the opportunity to ever do it again. So it was probably something important to you. So we just. We
definitely grew from that, though.
Yeah.
Is what I mean. Being uncomfortable. I guess that's the point, guys. Is put
yourself in uncomfortable situations.
Yeah,
that's probably the point we're trying to make.
Les Browne, put yourself in positions to where you can't retreat. And I always keep that thought in my back of my head. And as soon as I got that phone call, that's the first thing I thought. I was like, here we go.
But you were speaking before we went on air today about you having a new confidence now that you've done this. In terms of putting yourself in a.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Yeah. So what we were talking about is that by interviewing Hoyce, Gracie, I'm talking about, it put so much pressure, stress. We were face to face. One of our first interviews with a legend, not over the phone, not via Skype, in person with this man. And now, what I was telling you, looking back, it's like, man, how could I get nervous with anyone else? This is like Bruce Lee. We just stood our own with Bruce Lee. He was really intense. And now moving forward, I don't care who. There's no nerves. This is what I'm supposed to do. Leaving that interview, I turned to you. I was like, man, how good did that feel?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess that's what I meant. Like, I needed that, because that's been in the back of my head for a long time. Like, all right, how am I going to react? I didn't go to school for broadcasting. I didn't go to school for media interviewing. I went to school for something totally unrelated. And my mind space, my headspace for the whole time up until recently was I was an athlete, and I think I was on the right page. I'm more comfortable interviewing the athletes, because
you learn,
and man,
it's getting a different perspective too on different little areas.
Being vulnerable.
They're different beasts. They are different beasts.
It's totally different. And I think each person, we're all totally different. It all comes down to how we deal with that adversity.
Yeah.
Who's in your circle, who you're surrounding yourself with, and also, are you doing anything to prepare for adversity? Not saying expect the adversity, not saying expect bad things, but put yourself in scenarios that you are eating a nice diet or a clean diet, whatever that works for you, or you are moving your body a little bit a couple times a week. It doesn't have to be 5 days. It could be 2 days. Or you are doing something to learn a little bit. Maybe you're reading, maybe you're listening to a podcast, or you are working on your personal skills, working on your relationships with your friends, calling your family. Things like that, I feel, creating those bonds with, different sources helps us get through those times, because you realize you're not alone. So that's what I mean by, preparing for adversity.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I think sometimes you learn from experience, and each time, for me, you kind of, you need to be knocked down in your life. You can't just always be, on the way to the stars all the time. And it's going to happen. Like, I know for my life, it has been a roller coaster. And sometimes you go in your shell sometimes and just want the easy way out and think about it. But then, when you get the rewards, you sometimes think, would it be worth as much if I just got it all gifted to me and I didn't have to work through all the different obstacles in its path?
Yeah, it's a very important point and a very important aspect of life are those moments of adversity, those moments that the breaks just aren't going for you. We have a term in American sports, the breaks are beating the boys. It's like everything that you could imagine is going wrong. I think they call that Marshall's law.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah, when it rains it pours. You can name it what you want to name it, but it's that sort of idea. And Tristan, what got you through it? Like what helped you getting through that?
Family.
That's what we're hearing a lot from a lot of our guests, that common denominator. And I know there's people out there, guys. I know if you're listening, because I was on the opposite side of that. I was one of these people that I'm talking about that when I was in the lowest point of my life, I isolated myself from my family because I felt like I didn't want to be a burden on them.
Yeah,
I've
I've heard that before too. Some of my friends have spoken about that as well.
So it was really, really tough for me to be in their life. And, I think it's really, and that's a lot. I don't want to say that's the wrong way of handling it, but looking back, if I could have handled it differently,
you would have given yourself different advice to what you would
have
done. But then you might not be the person you are today if you didn't experience that.
Yeah, what do we say? You say it with your clients, I say it with mine. You have to find what works for you, and you do have to trust. To quote Steve Jobs, you got to trust that those dots will connect. You have to have faith in something. We're not. It doesn't have to be religion. It doesn't have to be God. It could be faith that your family raised you right. It could be faith. Like for me, what it was, I would wake up and just, since I was a little boy, I always just wasn't. I wasn't able to just admit that all that I could do was staying in my hometown. I don't know. A better way to put that would be, I guess, there was always something in me that knew that I needed to leave.
Yeah, you needed to explore and see what else was out there.
It was an instinctual thing. It wasn't even a choice.
Yeah, I'm a traveller too, so I really needed to see what was outside of just Sydney, Australia. And how you talked to me about Sydney, Australia being a beautiful place all the time.
Yeah.
And I can see that. And I can see how someone that was not from Sydney could see that. But despite all the beauty, I needed to see some other beauty.
Of course.
Do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah, of course. It's perception, man. You could be from, no matter where you're from, I feel your home will always be home, but you will always see home through your own eyes.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm sure that when you take me to Youngstown later in the year, that I'm going to see some cool shit that you probably say, oh, this is just Youngstown. I'm going, whoa, I kind of like that.
I don't know if there's cool shit in Youngstown.
Well, that was an experience.
My family and friends, yeah, right? My family and friends. The thing about Youngstown, it's an old steel town. We bring it up every now and then. There were more people living in my hometown in the 1920s, fathom that, guys, in the 1920s than there are now. In the 19
million people were there.
In the 1920s, there were over 100,000. It was a booming steel town. Warner Brothers Studio, the famous Hollywood production team, started in Youngstown with their first theater in Youngstown. There was one of the first picture palaces. They called these things in the 1920s the Roaring Twenties, right before the Depression. These large film cinema, they called them picture palaces, started popping up, and one of the original ones was in Youngstown, and it produced the steel that helped win the war, World War I, World War II, the first blast furnace, so that first mechanism thing that creates steel, that melts it down, was created in Youngstown. So it has a lot of old rich history, but then unfortunately wars are good for economies. Whenever there's war, the economy usually is going well.
Yeah.
When the wars ended, I think it was Vietnam, Korea, I'm not a historian, but I know a little bit. I think it was in the 70s, and they moved all the jobs. The mills closed in the 70s. They moved all the jobs, and these mills closed overnight. And just like that, Youngstown became a ghost town.
Wow.
So, we have good boxers, good athletes.
Definitely. Well, I think they've always spoken about, being athletic, kind of being your way out. Like, there's nothing wrong with being from Youngstown, but some people do want to get out, and they talk about that a lot.
I say it all the time. I love where I'm from. I would never change it. I always tell my boys that have never been there, and not everyone could be from Youngstown. And that's a compliment to my friends listening and my family at home, because it's very, I've never been to another place with stronger family bonds. That's 100%.
Well, I guess you have to, don't you? After
Yeah.
The stories you've told me.
Yeah, I've lived in different continents, different states, different cities, from the East Coast to the West Coast of America, now Australia, and Youngstown, Ohio. Those families, really close knit families. You're eating dinner together every night. You're talking about your school, and it creates loyalty. It creates awesome values, and it creates integrity amongst your interpersonal relationships.
Well, it probably creates determination. It creates things like surrounding yourself, like you spoke about, family, surrounding yourself with positive family, and just always having their back.
Yeah, and it's very important, and it's one of those underlying factors that when you meet new people, if you're a single guy, or if you're just meeting new friends, or if you're meeting a girl, you kind of have these I at least do. I have these key point indicators almost of if they're good for my life, and one of those main questions I'll tick off is how they talk about their own family.
Yeah.
If you meet somebody and you kind of hear
That's
negativity, it's huge,
for me.
right?
Like some people, I remember I was in a room, it was only a couple of weeks ago, and I'm not going to mention names or where it was, but one person was talking about how they didn't want to see their family on the weekend. And then in the room, I had a couple other people that had moved here from another country, and I was like to that person, do you know how lucky you are? Because these two would love to be having dinner with their family right now, and you're talking about not even wanting to see them?
Yeah.
Like, wow.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that has to do with how we feel about ourselves, what's going, internally.
You just don't know what it's like. I've seen, last few years, some older relatives die, and, you just don't know how long you've got with your own family. So if you've got some time, some free time, just pick up the phone or go see them, or, I know that even though you live so far away from your mother, you speak to her all the time.
Yeah, that's the point here, is that don't take time for granted. Don't take your family for granted. Don't take your friends for granted. I mean, when's the last time, when you think about it, when's the last time you turned to, one of your best friends and just, let them know how you feel about them? And it's just sadly to say, in our society, it takes for a tragedy to happen. I mean, look what happened to the...
Yeah, sometimes, how many times do you go to a funeral and you go, oh, it's really good to catch up? Really good to catch up at a funeral?
I know. I mean, there's an interesting piece written about how, when 9/11 happened in America, how it instantly, connected so many strangers, because there's this, human phenomenon that happens during tragedy that's when we grow close. That it almost takes something like that for us as humans to realize what this life is all about, and form bonds and come together to get through it, and to mourn, and to share sorrow together.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be the case.
No,
you don't have
right.
to wait for a tragedy.
So take home point is, boys and girls out there, if you got some free time, pick up the phone, ring your mum and dad, ring your best friends, go see them, spend some time with them, some quality time with them. Don't just go in there for an hour and then just ship the hell out.
Yeah.
Spend some time, pick their brains, ask them about how they grew up.
Yeah.
All different. That's what I've kind of been getting out of what my parents at the moment is, trying to pick their brains and seeing how, when they were my age, what they did, and just different advices, because they're the best people. They're the people that are going to tell you the truth.
Yeah. Speaking of best friends, my best friend's coming out here in 2 weeks. I've known this kid since we were 13 years old. We grew up on the same street. Matthew Phillip George Banks and his mom Dee. She's like a second mom to me. And they're coming to Sydney. They're coming to Australia for the first time. And we have, when we were young bucks, 14, 15, 16, there was a group of about 5 of us, and we would mob everywhere together. We played ball together. We trained together. We were inseparable. But man, we would never say how much we enjoyed each other's company. We would constantly be clowning each other. But we knew that, if somebody ever tried to step in and hurt one of us, we had each other's back. It's only been since maybe our mid-20s, late 20s now, when we all see each other, we realize that it's all love, hugging, and sharing stories.
Well, it'll be good to be
it's part of growing up. Yeah, it's part of growing up.
Man. So obviously we've got some big shows coming up. We won't leave too much.
Yeah, I mean, can we talk about any of the shows?
Yeah, we got Big Bad.
Who are you thinking about?
Larry Holmes coming up next episode, guys. So
yeah, Larry Holmes is next, and only our close relatives have been bothering us.
So don't go away just yet. We've been putting out some trailers. We'll give you a bit of a sneak peek trailer.
Yeah.
Before everyone else gets it, so the people who actually do listen all the way to the end will start hearing trailers.
Yeah, guys. So what we're saying is, at the end of this episode, this would be our introductory episode of starting to tail end.
Yeah, so the next
Yeah.
episode, because usually what we do, guys, is we record about 4 or 5 days in advance. So then we've got, obviously, just in case anything happens during the week to either of us, we've always got an episode to put on for you guys. And we try to keep it obviously as relevant and as close to the actual day as possible. But we do have a couple up our sleeves, and we'll start putting some previews at the end of the show. So for those guys and girls that actually listen all the way through the end, you're going to get a little bit of a sneak peek before everyone else does.
Yeah, if you're too young to remember Larry Holmes is a legend. He's one of few men to beat Muhammad Ali. This man didn't lose for the first time until he was 36 years old. Started his career 48-0. This guy shared the rings with Spinks, Tyson, Holyfield, Ali, Ernie Shavers, Ken Norton. Some people say he was one of the greatest heavyweights of all time.
I think he was. He'll be my top 5.
Yeah, for sure.
We're going to put him in top 5.
For
Ali,
sure. The Eastern Assassin. Who would you go
Fraser.
top? Are we talking heavyweights or boxers of all time?
Just heavyweights. I think
Just
I think
heavyweights?
it's cruel to put a heavyweight next to a middleweight or a featherweight. Like, they've got different skill sets, different sizes.
And these
It's
lists,
hard, man.
if the lists were to be made, I like making lists of like just their prime.
Yeah.
So let's not talk about Ali's after he fought, when he was older, when you should have hung him up. But you take Ali in his prime.
We might as well say Cassius Clay and Muhammad Ali. 2 different fighters.
Hold on, his mama call him Clay. I'm gonna call him Clay. Come on, guys. Reference
Yeah.
coming to it. It's Muhammad Ali. Any man choose to change his
So
name.
I would have number 1 Muhammad Ali.
Of all time? Me too. He's the GOAT.
Yeah.
He's
You
the
have
GOAT. For sure. I just put a video up on my Facebook. There's this site I follow called Unbelievable Facts. And that's it. I'm one of these guys that I like random knowledge and useless facts. This one isn't that useless. If you go to my page, it's Muhammad Ali against George Foreman. And Ali is older. And this is when Ali won late in the fight. I believe it was Rope-a-Dope, Rumble in the Jungle. I may be wrong on that. Don't quote me on that. But watch the video, and he makes Foreman miss 21 times in 10 seconds.
Yeah.
It's when he's on the ropes. And
I've seen that video. No, it's not Foreman, but it's someone. I think it might be Cleveland. Is Cleveland Williams?
No, it's not Cleveland Williams. Cleveland Williams.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I saw it actually yesterday.
Anyway, Ali makes the dude. I should know.
He's like prancing on the actual.
Yeah, and he does the shimmy. But so yeah, heavyweights. I'd say Ali,
Sue, Joe,
Rocky Marciano,
Joe,
Frazier, Lewis,
no, Joe Lewis.
Joe Lewis.
Is it Lewis or Louis? Because remember
It's
because I remember when I said that
Yeah.
my name is actually spelt exactly the same and we pronounce it Louis, but then obviously different pronunciations against different.
Yeah,
Different
yeah.
continents.
It's Joe Lewis.
Lewis.
Joe Lewis. Yeah, Joe. And then you got to put. I mean, Rocky Marciano.
Yeah, Rocky Marciano. But he wasn't a true heavyweight though in terms of size.
I never seen him fight either. But then we're missing Sugar Ray Robinson.
Yeah.
These guys, they were legendary fighters. And
So
I
that's on record alone. Rocky's got to be in that top 3 for sure.
yeah, and he used to fight bare knuckle.
So
Like,
that's
he's
crazy.
fought
So
fought
I'm gonna
people
put
bare
him
knuckle.
2, Joe 3. Who else are we gonna have? Joe Frazier has to be up there.
And most people
Larry,
throw
maybe
Mike.
5. Mike.
Mike's not in your top 5.
Mike.
In his prime.
No.
No? Yeah, too tarnished? Too soon?
Too soon.
Yeah, I know what you're
I
saying.
don't think we ever got to see the best of Mike
I know what
Tyson.
you're saying. No, I agree. He had moments. His uppercut and his ferocity and that. He had those few years of just complete invincibility, and he had that fear factor, kind of that fear factor that we talked about with Conor. And once you lose that, though, that's a dangerous thing. Once you lose that invincibility, mental, psychological, aspect.
But we spoke about this morning. We were just talking about some fights coming up. Mark Hunt not being in the best shape of his life. Mike
Yeah.
Tyson was a tiny heavyweight.
Real small.
He could have made cruiserweight, maybe even light heavyweight if he went to an actual camp.
Well, no, the dude's
He only
frame.
fought at 220.
Yeah, but his frame was just huge.
Cruiser fight at 200.
I met Tyson in Vegas when I lived there, and his head, he looked, dude.
Have you
I
seen him now, because he's on a paleo or something now. He's about 190.
He's
at
an
least.
old man. I think he's 103 years
Yeah,
old.
if he trained and he ate properly, I reckon he could have got down to cruiserweight easily.
Yeah, but where's the power at? And then where's your?
True.
The dude was knocking out grown 6'7"
You have to
men.
think that he probably gave up 6-7 inches every time he entered the actual ring.
How about his style though? He would do the left, the swooping duck, like the under, and he'd throw those uppercuts.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah, Tyson was something else, something the world had never seen. But the division was, with the hopes of we got the new Aussie.
Man, it was like George Foreman. Jesus.
Yeah, there were tons of them, and unfortunately, the division has really taken a hit in the last 20 years, in my
Let's hope
opinion.
Lucas can turn that around. Like, he's got a lot of support back here. I think the biggest biggest thing that will turn the division around is if the best guys fight. There's a handful. There's about 5 or 6 of them that are in that sort of, there's no actual standout fighter at the moment. I think that's the thing now that Klitschko's actually been knocked down to to being just a contender again,
I don't
there
think-
is a genuine opportunity for someone to stake the claim to be the best in that division.
I think that the whole sport, though, is suffering with the rise of MMA. I think because of the popularity of MMA, you're losing top quality athletes to a different sport. To where, like, I don't think
boxing's own fault, but
my
boxing's
opinion,
an
man,
opportunity that
I don't think Klitschko could hold a candle to the boxing
I can
greats.
tell you who's the
You know, I don't think you
the
put him
biggest
against.
issues. Is
He's not in my top 20. He's not in my
Mayweather-
top 15.
Mayweather and De La Hoya, I think they're the guys that and Pacquiao have a lot of blame to why boxing is on the decline right now.
Well,
Because they didn't fight each other at their primes.
I don't know what it is, but I mean, could you imagine John Jones fight boxing? You know that type of athlete boxing with his
Yeah.
speed.
You just don't know. Boxing is kind of strange in terms of its crossover.
I just feel there's athletes though that want that just aren't choosing to box anymore. It might just be that
Well, I guess it's sexy now to be a UFC fighter.
very much so. It's the fastest growing sport,
Yeah.
and when
It's
you
very, very close to being mainstream.
Yeah.
I reckon in a year's time, it's going to be mainstream in majority of the world.
I mean, especially with the likes of you got awesome teachers who are spreading their message like the Gracie family and that lineage. There's Gracie Jiu-Jitsu academies everywhere in the world now, and just help spreading that word of discipline and just what Dana's doing, man. He talk about a top-notch entrepreneur and businessman. That guy hustles and grinds. We're talking about Dana White, and
His travel
and when you think about the investment, he bought the UFC for $1 million.
Yeah.
Him and the Fertitas,
It'd be
and
worth now.
I'd definitely say $1 billion.
Are we close? You would think.
You're the money guy. You're the numbers guy. I'm just throwing that out there.
That last UFC, where they made $50 million from it, and
It's crazy.
They paid the fighters maybe $5.
That's
Apart from Conor.
Nah, I mean, there's that's kind of out there. No, the way this paying system is pretty funny too. You come out of the house like the ultimate. When they do the Ultimate Fighting show, you're on the lowest, which is 2-2. So like you fight two.
I actually saw an article. Holly got $500,000 for that fight, the one she lost.
Who?
Holly.
Home 500,000.
Yeah,
Yeah,
500,000.
she's a former. She was a champion, but then you got like crazy Nate was on 20-20. The guy has more wins, more post-fight bonuses than anyone in UFC history
So
in
what's
this
he get
division.
for the Conor fight?
I think
Half the bar?
I heard
Half
500,000.
bar, yeah. Because I know Conor was on $1 million plus a take or percentage of the TV money.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So you'd think that if the percentage of TV money, you probably have to think $10-15 million.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. Just to show you how popular sport's growing too, I went to a UFC event in Adelaide, Australia last May. In Adelaide, the city of churches. When I saw that card was in Adelaide, I was like, what? At that time last May, cage fighting was still illegal, I think, in Victoria.
Yeah.
Or one of the, I'm not a historian. I don't know anything about Australian state and laws, but I'm pretty sure that was the case.
Yeah. Okay.
And-
Interesting money. Talks. I still can't believe some of Mayweather's last fights. He got paid $40 million for some of the most boring fights I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
People still paying that money. I guess that's their problem. Anyway, guys, thank you again for tuning in. Remember, if you haven't yet, subscribe and leave us a 5-star review. Tell your friends. Share it around on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter for us.
Hashtag Division Board Podcast, TVBP.
Awesome. Johnny,
Peace.
you have a great day.
You too, big dog.
All right, man.
See ya.
It makes me wanna creep.
I got something for your mind, your body, and your soul. I got something for your mind, your body, and your soul.
The Vision Board Podcast, hosted by Johnny Stofko and Tristan Cannell.